So I am Dr. Jumelle Brooks, and I am your candidate for District 12, which covers Greenwood and McCormick counties. The question is always, why am I running, and what will I do? The question I ask is, if not me, then who? That's the big problem. During this time in my work life, I've worked on education side platforms, healthcare side platforms, and in both of those arenas, I was able to identify the gaps that you recognize every day. They're gaps. So for instance, you have access to funds that could pay for childcare. Some individuals do. But if you make too much money, you lose access to those funds. That's what I consider a gap. How do we bridge that gap? Those are the things that we've got to figure out how to write the policies that limit the amount of people who get caught in the trap and be stuck in that gap. We've got to grow South Carolina, and we've got to do it one ladder at a time. And the way you do this is you just simply write your legislation that is reflective of the individuals that you serve. But you have to know the people that you serve. If you don't know people, how can you write things that will be beneficial to them? If you look at the South Carolina House right now, there is a very clear picture of what it is missing. It is predominantly male, and it is predominantly white. So who would be making laws for Black women, Asian women, Latinas? Who would be making those laws for them? No one at that table. So when you ask, why am I running? I'm running to close a gap. I'm running to bridge a gap. When you're looking at laws that are being made by unqualified individuals as it relates to education, I have a problem with that. Because we have qualified educators here in the state of South Carolina that can stand against any other state and hold their own. But South Carolina feels that they should make the laws as to how and who we should teach. South Carolina feels we should eliminate history. All of those things are other ways to create gaps that we should not allow to happen. If you have not watched, what is happening right now is a massive rollback of everything that we took for granted. While we sleep at night, there are deals being made. They are. There are conversations being had. They are. Alabama, their district attorney, actually tried to propose that they came up with a redistricting system that eliminated race as the option. That's in Alabama. That's not too far from here. That's a problem. That's going to create a gap. Every time you redistrict and draw that line, it has the potential to dilute a certain population's vote. If your vote was not as important as you think it is, why do you think they keep trying to take it from you? How are we missing this? How are we missing this? Government knows that you are the reason that they even exist. They know that. So you see things being put in place every day so that your existence doesn't have an impactful impact. That's a problem. That's a gap. We're going to work to eliminate that. Every time that there's a law that you see in the news or that you read about, and it shows you that it is restricting your rights to something, it isn't a direct attempt and an attack on your democracy. Democracy was established for all, and it is our right and our fight to make sure that we don't lose that. And we can only do that if we don't think democratic thoughts just during election time. Think about it every day. Every day you wake up, you have to be ready to say that this is what I stand for. When I decided to leave my career as an educator to run for office, I did that because I know that if we don't put a stop to what's happening right now in the House and the Senate, we won't have it. And the last thing I want to tell you about representation, and this goes primarily, I'm going to speak to Black men. I had a conversation, and I'm going to let you have it, Bill, but I had a conversation with a group of Black men, and I asked the question, why do you not vote regularly? Because if we look at stats for South Carolina, Let's just be honest. You can pull it. Women determine who go in office. I didn't make that up. You can check that out. That's accessible to you, right? I ain't gonna be like the dude who was talking about the catty litter and couldn't give you a reference. I got one. If you see that, my question was, why do you not vote? And this was a very serious statement and response, and it's accurate in their depiction. He said, one of the leaders of this group said, because they don't make laws for us. But you know what I said? You absolutely right. Now let's talk about why they don't make laws for you. How many of you do you see sitting at that table that's making those laws? If you don't know black men, you can't develop a law to protect black men. If you don't know black women, you cannot develop a law to protect them. Asians, Hispanics, you cannot allow a team of all white men to make decisions that impact a diverse nation. Epic failure. And if we're not watching, South Carolina's Supreme Court will do just what I am asking you to be on the lookout for. Once the last black Supreme Court justice for the state of South Carolina ages out of the system in April, you have the potential of having an all-white male Supreme Court justice that will be making decisions that directly impact the most incarcerated group in the state of South Carolina, which would be black men. So if you ever see a black man and you ask him why they're not voting, remind them that if they've never voted before, they better vote like no other now, because they are rolling back ties, and these ties impact the women in their lives, it impacts the men in their lives, and it impacts their children. Voting and being present is the only option. I'm Dr. Jumelle Brooks, and I'm going to run for District 12 State House seat. See you in November.